What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Friday. TGIF DK show up on the air on your 5.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online at sportstalk1051.com. Stream it up over there. Got your smart speakers, smart devices, Google and Alexa speakers out there. Also, got the video stream up and rolling. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram available over there. Also, download the Sports Talk app and take her on the go. But happy Friday, happy TGIF here. What do we got on the game plan to wrap up this week? Brewers will be back at it starting tomorrow, going up against the Minnesota Twins for a quick 2-game series. Then they'll be on the road starting on Monday for a 3-game series against the Cubbies. Then the Brewers will finally be back at American Family Field a week from today, where they will have a weekend series against the Marlins, against the Miami Marlins there. So, but finally going to be back to the second half, the quote unquote second half of the Major League Baseball season. Got games coming up here today and such, but even though we're focused on the rest of this season, in case you missed it yesterday, it's not like the NFL where they tease it and lead up to it and such. But the 2025 Brewers schedule was announced yesterday. We posted it up on our socials and stuff and such. But going to be opening up next year on the road against the Yankees on March 27th. So there you go. Last season or this year, they opened up against the Mets. Now they'll be opening up against the Yankees to open up the 2025 season. Then they'll be at home. Their home opener is going to be on the 31st, taking on the Kansas City Royals. So Brewers going to be opening up against a couple of American League teams, to open up season. Their first divisional series will be the Reds right after that opening series against Kansas City. So just kind of looking at they will face the Cubs at the beginning part of May. If you're wondering about when they go up against the Twins, they will be home against the Twins May 16th and 17th and 18th. How about that? A 3-game series against the Twins. So May 16th, 17th, 18th. That's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then they will visit the Twins for 3 games in June for another Friday, Saturday, Sunday series, June 20th, 21st, and 22nd. So, all right, I like it. They did it this year finally. They're doing it again next year. No middle of the week, random Tuesday, Wednesday series or something like that. Think I like that the fact that they're making it a weekend series there too. So, but yeah, you can check it up. It's up there, it's loaded, and it's ready to go already for next year. But we got to focus on this year yet here too. So we'll talk some Brewers baseball throughout the morning as we get set for the second half of this season, the final 2.5, a little less than 2.5 months here push to get to the postseason. The can the Brewers maintain their success? Can they hold on to that first place in the division? Can they fend off the pesky St. Louis Cardinals? Looking at MLB.com, 1 second half goal for every club they've got on there. For the Brewers, pretty simple. Defend the National League Central crown after making the postseason in 5 of the previous 6 seasons, including division titles in 18, 21, and 23. The Brewers were expected by many prognosticators to take a step back at 24 after losing their top 2 starters and reliever of the year, Devin Williams. That cost them the first half, but here they are in first place again, 4.5 games up on runner-up Cardinals at the break with just enough pitching and a young but much more proficient offense that ranks second in the majors in on-base percentage and 8th in runs per game. Owen Williams is expected back by the end of July. So It's interesting when you look at the rest of the goals that, for the rest of the NL Central that the writers picked, it's all about playoffs. Cardinals win the NL Central. Cubs get on a hot streak, make the playoffs. Pirates get over the hump, potentially get to the postseason. Reds make the postseason. So we'll see if any of these teams can get hot, maybe make things a little bit more difficult on the Brew Crew for the second half of the season. So, but we'll talk some baseball coming up. We're gonna wrap up our Packers training camp storylines, top storylines heading into Packers training camp because practice begins Monday. Veterans report by Sunday. We've already had rookies and such and others already report. Sports Illustrated, Bill Hubers, saying that Jordan Love is still expected, according to his sources, to show up at training camp, even without an extension in place. So, um, but we'll wrap up our storylines here. We got a couple of them to hit up, and we'll be talking about practice. Yeah, practice on Monday already for the green and gold. So, but that's going to be coming up here. So if we're wrapping it up, this is going to be your final call here. If what are your top storylines for the green and gold as we head into the beginning of training camp? Your top storylines heading into training camp. So Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur are scheduled to speak on Monday. So I'm sure if it's not wrapped up by then, Goody's going to get asked about that quite a bit, quite a bit about Jordan Love's contract. So he will take the podium at 9:20 Monday morning. Matt LaFleur right after that, and open practice, the first practice underway. Plus shareholders meetings. I know a few of you have reached out and said that you're going to be heading down for that on Monday. So are our you are our honorary on the ground reporters. Okay. So we'll get to that. So we've got some inside the training room with Dr. Crow coming up here in just an hour, just under an hour, just past 7 o'clock. So we'll talk a little Chris Middleton with him for sure. Chris Middleton recovering from two ankle surgeries this offseason. So we'll catch up with Dr. Crow for a little inside the training room brought to you by Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Got that. We're going to catch up with Brandon Berg, sports editor for the Chippewa Herald. We'll talk definitely some Brewers with him, do a little local sports roundup as well. So Brandon will be joining us right after we get to, or right after Dr. Crow is up with our Inside the Training Room. Got a little cream of the crop. We'll get to you guys can play along as well. So what are your cream of the crops? Who are your cream of the crops? Let us know. Hit us up with a text 715-830-1912. So let's get things rolling this morning, shall we? Let's head it up. Let's talk let's talk a little let's do a little bit of both here. We'll talk some Brewers and then we'll talk some Packers, our final storylines heading into training camp here. What are your What are your top storylines? This is your last call for this, so let us know. Hit us up with a text. Join the convo, all right? I want to hear from you. Hit us up with some text messages on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. You can also comment on the video streams on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram here shortly. So let's get to both the Little Brewers and Packers chat to finish up this week and to begin your Friday. Okay, so. We'll take that first break here. Oh, also, we're going to wrap up. I should note we're going to wrap up our final matchups for our bracket challenge. Where did my bracket go? There's my bracket. We're going to wrap up our final matchups. Final Sweet 16 spots will be clinched today. So we're gonna get to that coming up here in I should say throughout the morning here. We'll get to those coming up throughout the morning here. We got we're gonna hit these one hard. We got a couple Packer ones here, and we got a couple of Brewer ones we're gonna get to throughout the morning. So we'll do the first one. We'll launch the first one during the upcoming break here too. So The Sweet 16 will be revealed by this morning. Sweet 16 is gonna be, revealed by this morning. So, all right, let's get it going here. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll get things rolling here with the leadoff, throw a little Brewers chat, throw a little Packers chat as we get set for the start of training camp, AKA football season for Monday, the final top storylines. We'll wrap up our series, top storylines heading into camp here. So let's jump right to it. I want to hear from you, all right? Hit me up with the text or comment on the video stream. What's on your mind here this morning, all right? Let's get things going. We'll be back in just a few minutes. in the mood to do a little updating, remodeling in your home, especially when it comes to the floors in there, maybe you want to redo your man cave or your living room, your bedroom, your kitchen, whatever the case may be, whatever space, maybe it's your office too. Whatever space needs a little updating when it comes to your floors. Look no further than Wisconsin's premier flooring store, our good friends at Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. Whether you want some new carpet or some tile or some luxury vinyl planks, or you don't even know what would work best in your space, and you just need some tips, you need some advice. Hey, Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire, they got the hookup for you. Just check them out, 3109 East Hamilton Avenue in Eau Claire. The entire team there will help you select the flooring that would best fit your budget, because they will match or beat the competition if you happen to find a better deal elsewhere. Or and they'll help you select, hey, what would look good in that space, what would function the best in that space over there too. So whatever space whatever area that you need some new floors in, they'll help you out. All right, whether it's a new project or doing some remodeling or such, just give them a visit. Okay, 3109 East Hamilton Avenue in Eau Claire. We got the first matchup. We're gonna wrap this thing up and put together our Sweet 16 after today. Then it'll get really close here, but we got a Packer matchup there for our most underrated Wisconsin sports athletes of all time. Amon Green versus Nick Collins. So Amon Green versus Nick Collins. Head to Twitter at my Twitter page at DANKASPER, or vote in our Facebook group page. Got to look it up for the love of the game. So go on over there and vote right now. All right, you got to vote right now. Amon Green or Nick Collins. Getting close to wrapping up. Whoever wins this matchup will face Chuck Cecil for the right to go to the Elite Eight. So we will have that Sweet 16 all set by the end of the day today. Speaking of a little green and gold, let's kick off and wrap up our top storylines heading into Packers training camp with practice beginning on Monday. The veterans, rest of the team has to report by Sunday. Again, it was reported by Bill Huber. Bill's fantastic over there. That Jordan Love will be at training camp, even if he doesn't have a contract in place and such. Which I honestly don't think is a big surprise to anybody. But I mean, I get it to an extent. Why there was some chat out there: would he show up? Would he not? In that, but and that's kind of where we're gonna wrap up our top storylines heading into this one. I was kind of saving this one to see if we were gonna get a contract extension in time or not. But Jordan Love. I mean, when we look at some of the overall, we've touched on double-digit storylines heading into camp this year, and honestly, we maybe even missed a couple of the top ones over there. But the defense and Jordan Love, to me, are the top two. If I had to rank them, Jeff Hafley / defense, new defensive coordinator, and Jordan Love are the top two storylines heading into training camp for the Packers for me this year. I know it's just practice, and I know at times it is very hard sometimes to get a good feel, to get a good grasp of how things are going, or what things look like when it's just in shorts, or it's not a full on padded practice, full on game and that. But this is obviously last year was a big year for Jordan Love, taking the helm from Aaron Rodgers. Essentially had a year to prove himself, and it started off a little slow. I mean, he had some up. I mean, the Bears game to open up had some good moments. He had some really good moments. The comeback victory against the Saints in the early part of the season, but really kicked it off in that second half. It's kind of after when Brian Gutekunst had his presser and said, "Hey, these are big Final 10 games for Jordan Love," and Jordan Love responded. No question about it. He responded, and he finished off the season pretty darn good. I mean, was in my opinion, and I get the voting was done beforehand and whatever, but Pro Bowl numbers. Finished the season 64.2% completion percentage, 4,159 yards passing, 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 96.1 rating. Now, I think there's a good chunk of fans or some people. Now, some people are already, ready to drink the Kool-Aid. Mike Tannenbaum, former general manager. I mean, he's been on this train all offseason saying he'd pick him second overall behind Patrick Mahomes of all the quarterbacks to put on his team. But I think there's still some maybe question marks like, okay, we saw a little bit of it last year. We saw it for what, second half of the season, 10 games or so from Jordan Love. Maybe there's still some people out there not ready to drink the full glass, the full cup of the Kool-Aid of Jordan Love. Like, okay, I want to see it again. Want to see it again for another year, for this year, just before I fully jump on board. And I get it, and I understand that. But I think, heading into this camp, heading into this season and preseason, it's a different type of feel for Jordan Love. One, I think there's still going to be pressure on him, but maybe not as much pressure as last year. I mean, last year, it's your first year, and you got a year to prove yourself, and you're replacing a legend and a Hall of Famer in that. So I mean, there was, and then you got, you're rewarded with a bunch of youngsters. Yes, you had a little time with Romeo and Christian Watson the year before, but then you have some rookie tight ends, and you got a couple of the rookie wide receivers in that. And this year, at least, you offensively, you get to hit the ground running instead of, working on a lot of installs and guys still getting acclimated to the offense and the playbook and all that good stuff. You get to hit the ground running a little bit more this year. And that's been noted and that's been talked about. But I think there's a little bit of a different pressure on Jordan Love this year heading into camp. It's that pressure of prove it. Like, prove that the final second half of the season, the last 10 games, the postseason, those stretch of games, prove it wasn't a fluke. Prove it wasn't a flash in the pan. You got a lot of people singing your praises right now, especially if he does get that contract, if he gets that big contract. You got a lot of people singing your praises right now. Go out there and prove them right. Or go out there and prove some of the naysayers like, yeah, we need to see a little bit more. We need to see a consistency there. Prove those guys wrong. So last year there was that pressure of like, can you be the guy? Can you be that dude to lead the franchise? Can you be that next quarterback, that third straight quarterback that's pretty darn special? And there was a little inconsistency, a little bit of a slow start at the beginning. But then you proved it for those last handful of games, that last stretch of the season. You led your team to the postseason. You were nearly a few plays away from going to the NFC Championship game in your first year as a starter. It's a different type of pressure this camp, this year for Love. It's more of like, repeat it or maybe even take another further step. Like, okay, just prove it to us that it wasn't just a fluke. There's going to be that. There's still some, and I get it. There's still some questions like, okay, is what we saw from last year, is that what we should expect from Jordan Love for the next 10 years? Is it, I'll use this comparison, a Daniel Jones-esque, because I've seen that being floated out there, where it's like, hey, great year, 2 years ago when he led the Giants to the postseason, beat the Vikings in the postseason, and then last year it was like, bleh. And, for me, for Love too, it's, okay, you've got a lot of those writers, talking heads out there loving you, praising you, saying you're one of the best in the league right now. It's a different switch from last year. Don't get caught up reading those headlines. Don't get complacent. Right? I want him to kind of still play maybe with a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, still something to go out there and prove. I mean, you haven't won anything yet. It's still early in your career, but you haven't won that championship. You haven't brought a Super Bowl back to Titletown. So you still got something to prove, but you're getting more attention now. It's a little bit of a different attention from last year. It was like, oh, first new starter, replacing Aaron and blah 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 blah. Now it's like, oh, one of the better ones in the league now. It's a different type of attention. How does he react to that? How does he feed off that? How does he, and I think too, this has got to be a year for Jordan Love to develop more as a leader. You don't have Aaron Jones in that locker room anymore. You lost a big leadership person role with Aaron Jones gone. To me, Jordan's got to be probably number one in terms of like stepping in and filling that leadership role on this team. I mean, it starts with the quarterback. When you talk about leaderships, you kind of always look at the quarterback position, and rightfully so. So I want to see him step up more into that. And not to say he wasn't a leader by any means or anything like that, but I think you can always get better as a leader and you can always do a little bit more. And what's going to be his leadership style? Because I think you can lead in different ways. I think you have to lead in different ways. Everybody's different. Some respond to the rah speech, pump up sort of thing. Some respond with, maybe a little bit more of a positive reinforcement. I think the job of the quarterback is to understand how different players on your team respond to leadership. Does that guy, does he just need an extra boost here? Does the other guy respond well to, maybe getting in his face and trying to pump him up or something like that? I think that's the role of a quarterback, is to understand that, to have that pulse on your team there. But I think, okay, he showed what he can do as a player on the field last year. Now let's see him continue to grow in the locker room, continue to grow as a leader. That stuff that we may not see all the time on the television or at games, because this is still a fairly young team. Still an incredibly young team. He's got to be the leader. He's got to be the leader on the offensive side here too, especially with Aaron Jones out. No David Bakhtiari even roaming on the sidelines. Jordan Love's got to be that guy to lead this ball club. And I think, when we look at last year, what was some of the weaknesses of Jordan Love? Was it at the beginning of the year in training camp? What was a lot of the talk about some of his areas that he needed to improve on? The deep ball, right? The accuracy with the deep ball. He's got the arm, but it was just the accuracy. It had to get better. And we saw that kind of roll into the season, beginning part of the season and such. But are we going to see improvements from some of his weaknesses from last year? Are we going to see, more consistency when it comes to the deep ball? Are we going to see, some of those throws where he's thrown off the back foot or whatever? Are we going to see improve, or, situational football, situational plays? Are we going to see an improvement from that aspect? Yes, you go back to the postseason game against the 49ers, thrown across your body, and that final drive, you throw an interception. Improve on stuff like that. You would think, and it's not to say they're going to be 100% perfect, because even the greats and the best still have hiccups and such, but learning from your mistakes from last year to improve this year and going forward. Will he get better? Will he continue to get better? You want to see that continued growth from Jordan Love. So I think it's a different type of pressure, to kind of wrap it up here. It's a different type of pressure for Love this year, in terms of like, okay, you showed us a lot last year. You showed us some good stuff. Now it's like, prove it again. It's like, prove it that wasn't a fluke. Prove it that it wasn't, just a little bit of a hot streak or whatever. Because there's still going to be doubters. There's still going to be people out there saying, yeah, we need to see more. And especially, too, if he does get that contract, which I think he will get the contract before the season starts, there's going to be that added extra pressure on him, too. Like, prove your worth for that contract. Because I think a lot of people from a fan's perspective, there may still be some out there, and maybe quite a bit, that like, I don't know if I'd give him a big deal right away. I want to see a little bit more. I just want to see a little bit more. And I get that. I understand why there are people who feel that way, want to see that. But I feel like he's going to get that contract. So there's going to be that added extra pressure on his shoulders. Like, all right, dude, you're getting paid the big bucks as one of the top quarterbacks in the league now. How do you handle that type of pressure. And let's face it too, defensive coordinators got a year of film on him. They got to study him a little bit more. They had a whole offseason to put on the tape and study him a little bit more. How does Jordan Love react to that? Again, going back to the weaknesses? How did the weaknesses that he flashed last year? Some of the stuff that he needs to improve on. Is he going to be able to do that this year? Can't catch anybody off guard this year with your play because you proved that you could be a pretty darn good quarterback. I'm excited to see growth again from Jordan Love. How does he continue to get better? How does this offense continue to get better? And that's kind of where my last storyline heading into this thing is going to be is the receivers, tight ends. We'll just call them the pass catchers. Because if it's not Jeff Hafley that has been talked about with his new defense, if it's not Jordan Love that has been talked about this all offseason, perhaps the third most talked about topic with this Packers team all offseason has been they don't have a number one wide receiver. Do they need a number one wide receiver? Who's going to be that number one wide receiver to step up this year? Then you got, they don't need one. We'd rather have all hands on deck, spread the ball out, this, that, all, it's been a topic of conversation all offseason, probably a top 3 topic of conversation, whether it's been from Packers fans, whether it's been from the Packers themselves or the talking heads out there. And we get why. We look at last year. You have a quarterback that throws for over 4,000 yards and no receiver that went over 1,000. A rookie led your team in receiving last year. Jayden Reed. I think, and we've talked about him a little bit early on, this is a big year for Christian Watson heading into his third year. We've seen the glimpses that he can be a big play threat. I think there's a majority, not all, but a majority of people believe if there's going to be a guy that develops into a number one wideout for this team, they feel like it could be Christian Watson. The key is, can he stay healthy? Can he stay healthy? If he can stay healthy, we've seen him be a special player. But I think this is a big year for him entering that third year. Just show us you can stay healthy. Show us you can stay consistent. Show us you can be that big play threat. Romeo Doubs has been just kind of Mr. Consistent, a very good red zone threat. Is it not saying he's this guy or going to be this guy? It almost feels like he's kind of like a Chris Carter-esque. All I do is catch touchdowns sort of thing. Is it the biggest guy? Is it the fastest guy out there? He's a fantastic route runner, and he's got some great hands. So how does Romeo Doubs continue to – can he take his game up another level? What does Jayden Reed have in store for us in year 2? Saw him last year. A lot of good games. Showed off his athletic ability. I think he's a guy – I know everybody kind of talks about him as a slot guy, and I get it. But I think he's a guy, too, that proved he could play on the outside. And then Dontavian Wicks. Dontavian Wicks is perhaps the one receiver that is maybe getting the most hype, getting all the attention. Like, watch out for this dude. You got Jordan Love saying the same thing. Watch out for this dude. Last year when he was a draft pick, mid-round pick, like, oh, okay, yeah. Intrigued with him. But, I mean, you've got people talking about, okay, maybe this is the dude that could be the number one. This is the dude that could be really special within this offense. So, what does he have in store for year 2? Because, and I'm not saying it happens for everybody, we've seen receivers when it comes to year 2 where it's like, do they take a little bit of a step back? Because then that's that overreaction part we get a lot from fans. It came with Devontae Adams, year 2, banged up, didn't have the greatest of year. People are like, what is going on with Devontae? Get him out of here. Yeah. We've seen that with year 2. We've seen that with the sophomores for a lot of these guys in the league, but it seems like especially on receivers. So that's where it's like, I'm looking at Reed and I'm looking at Dontavian Wicks. It's like, will they hit a sophomore slump? Or can they elevate their game and really kind of prove like, hey, you know what? Maybe we're the number 1 or maybe the number 2 type of receivers over there. Yes, I mean, as a fan, I would love to see them continue to spread the ball out, them continue to get everybody catches out there, kind of similar to last year. Now, I still kind of feel like that it might just naturally develop that one guy could be the number one wide receiver that could develop into that number one target. I don't think they're necessarily going to force anybody into that role or try to force anybody into that role. But I wouldn't be surprised if somebody just kind of naturally develops into that. It's like this dude just continues to get open and this dude just continues to make plays. And it just kind of naturally goes that way. I feel like that could be the possibility there. So, I mean, there's no doubt this receiving core is uber talented, all the potential in the world. And I don't even think they've hit that potential yet. They don't maybe have the biggest names out there. That it's not that 2011, 2012, whatever cover it was on Sports Illustrated. I've got it. You got Aaron, and then you got his 6 pass catchers of Jordy, Greg, Driver, Jones, Cobby, Finley. They were well known. They were name guys out there. They're not to this level yet, but maybe this is the year where they get to that level, and that includes the tight ends, Musgrave, Tucker Kraft. I can't wait to see these two guys. I think when it comes to the tight ends, it's a little bit opposite of maybe some of the wide receivers. When you look at it historically with some of the top tight ends in the game or that we've seen in the last few years, it's those year two jumps. The first year, their rookie years, they get acclimated a little bit to the NFL game, to the style there. But we've seen tight ends really take a jump in year two. And that's where I'm looking at Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. I'm like, okay, we saw some glimpses last year. We saw some good stuff. Musgrave got the first shot. He got hurt. Tucker Kraft filled in nicely. Now, these two guys with a year under their belt, what else do we got in store? Can they take that year two jump that we've seen a lot of the good tight ends in this league take? I'm for all the talk, and I get it and I understand it, for all of the talk about the wide receivers this offseason, don't forget about the tight ends. Don't forget about these two guys. Because I think you could potentially see these two guys, maybe they're the ones that develop into the number one options. If there's going to be that natural development of a number one option, maybe it's Musgrave. Maybe it's Kraft. And who cares if it's a tight end and not a wide receiver? Works pretty darn well for the Chiefs. Works pretty well for the Patriots with Gronk. Who cares if it's not a wide receiver as the number one target? If it's one of those tight ends, I'm okay with that. There's no rule, there's no law that says the number one pass catcher has to be a wideout. So don't forget about those two guys there. I think year two is going to be something to watch with those two guys. Can they, because it's been a while, right? I mean, it's been a while since we talked about a consistent, a really, really good tight end for Green Bay. I mean, from a athletic skill talent perspective. Jermichael Finley, maybe the last one. Finley too. We would talk about that year two type of jump, and that's where I'll go. He's an example of that. 2008 was his rookie year. He played 14 games, only started one, but 12 targets, 6 catches, 74 yards. He had a touchdown. Nothing to brag home about. 2009. Okay, 2009. That was kind of his he really kind of showed what he could potentially do. What he could do out there. In 2009, 13 games, 676 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. And remember that playoff game against the Cardinals? I mean, Finley Finley was having himself a game. He was having himself a game. And I remember reading this too. It was Mike McCarthy talked about heading into that Super Bowl year, the 2010. Yeah, it was first of all that Cardinals game, 6 catches, 159 yards. And it was that season, after that season, they went into 2010 kind of like, okay, we're gonna really focus on tight end. We're gonna make like Jermichael Finley a target. We're gonna make him a number one target. That's our guy too. And then, obviously he got hurt. Only played 5 games and they adjusted. And then that's when you saw the really breakouts of a Jordy, Jennings and those receivers and Jones and all that. But you see that year 2 jump of Finley, 74 yards up to 676. Same thing that happened with Kelsey and these other tight ends. But that's the example. That's why I'm excited to see Musgrave and Kraft in these year 2 jumps. All right. We got to take a quick break. Enough of the rambling right there. We'll take a quick break. We'll wrap up the first hour. But hit me up with some texts, all right? 715-830-1912. Don't forget to vote, too. Poll is up. Looks like Nick Collins is out to an early lead. All right, we'll be back in just a couple minutes. Have you been to the VFW Post 305 lately? Well, let me tell you, they've got some new and exciting things happening there. First, they've got new kitchen hours every day, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., except Fridays, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., and then 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Plus, Saturday, Sunday, breakfast is served until noon. They got daily specials and Wednesday nights and Saturdays, live music. Plus, their patio has some new outdoor tables and chairs to go along with that beautiful view over there. So get on down to the VFW Post 305, located at 1300 Star Avenue in Eau Claire. I misspoke about how our voting is going right now because it's one of those situations where Nick Collins is off to a comfortable lead on Facebook, but Amon Green is off to a comfortable lead on Twitter. So it looks to be neck and neck right now. Again, you got to vote in our Facebook group page for the love of the game, and then at Twitter at DANKASPER. I've never heard your take on the Bucks signing Gary Trent Jr. I don't know if that's a joke. We spent like half the show on Wednesday talking about that. I'm surprised I don't have a Gary Trent Jr. jersey yet. I freaking loved it, man. Talked about, last year he was a guy I wanted the Bucks to sign and didn't get it done. And the fact that he took a minimum, he turned down $15 million per year, was it, from the Raptors offered him a multi-year deal that was like $15 million per year reported, and he reportedly turned that down. And reportedly it's a minimum deal for the Bucks. Yeah, I was going goo bananas on it on Wednesday. So yeah, we absolutely talked about Gary Trent Jr. on Wednesday. I think practically for half the program on Wednesday. Love that signing. I absolutely love it. They got their backcourt tandem with Gary Trent and Damian Lillard over there. So no, yeah, we definitely talked about it, and I love it. Loved it. So let's catch up on some other texts here on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line here. Talking about the green and golds. This is from Eric. Eric saying, agree with you when it comes to the tight ends. Definitely looking forward to seeing if either Tucker or Musgrave take that year to jump. I think people are kind of already forgetting about those two guys and hyper focused on Jacobs and the wide receivers. I get why, but don't forget about those tight ends either. Also, another text here from John. John is saying, I'm one of those that is not ready to fully commit to Jordan Love yet. Had a fantastic season last year. Sky is the limit for him. I just want to see a little bit more from him before I completely drink the Kool-Aid, as you say. Another texter here, no name, can't give you any credit over there, but this texter saying about Jordan Love, I think he's going to get that big deal before the start of the regular season. I think he's earned it. I think he showed us enough last year. I understand why people may be a little skeptical to give him that big deal after just essentially a half of a season, but that's not how the NFL works from a business standpoint. Yeah, I mean, how many times have we seen players where they've cashed in off of really good years, one good years, and they've gotten big deals, and some of them worked out, some of them haven't. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that's how it works. Ideally, I think maybe a lot of us would like to see, okay, do it another year before you get that big raise. But yeah, you're right. That's not how it works in the NBA or in the NFL. So another texter, I cannot wait. This is from Ben. I cannot wait to see Musgrave and Kraft in action this year. Tight ends and their rookies, it's so hard to get acclimated in your rookie season. Not everybody's like a Sam Laporta who has a fantastic rookie year. Just look at George Kittle and Travis Kelce, for example. Definitely excited to see what Matt LaFleur has in store for Musgrave and Kraft this season. Another texter saying, when it comes to the wide receivers and the tight ends, I think they're only going to be better this year because of Josh Jacobs and the threat of him in the backfield and also the threat of him catching the football. All right, good stuff. Keep those coming. All right, hit me up with some more texts on the Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. Coming up next hour, we'll kick it off with a little inside the training room with Dr. Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Also, we will talk with Brandon Berg after that. We'll get to some Brewers chat with him as we get into the second half of this season. Brewers not in action tonight. They'll be in action tomorrow. Maybe quite a few of you going. Maybe quite a few of you listening are going to that series, whether it's on Saturday or you're riding the bus on Sunday. But I got a 2-game series against the Twins, and then they hit the road for 3 games against the Cubbies before returning home to Milwaukee next Friday, a week from today. So, but we'll talk some baseball. We'll talk some Brewers with Brandon. Also, we've got a cream of the crop. All right, cream of the crop. So you can make your picks by letting us know who is your cream of the crop from this past week. Okay, you can play along with us, not just us. Oh, and I forgot to mention this too. I saw this most expensive offenses in 2024. Going back to the NFL here, quick. This was from Warren Sharp from Sharp Football. Number 1 is the Browns, 191 million. Second is the Rams, 190.7 million. Where the Packers land on this? Dead last, $78.4 million. Now, this will change once Jordan Love has his contract, but it'll still be pretty darn good. I mean, it's not going to jump up in the top 10, probably not even going to jump up in the top 15 or 20. But yeah, you got a Packers offense dead last in terms of the amount of money spent on that group. Thought that was kind of interesting. Saw that yesterday. So, all right, 1 hour in. We got a couple more to go. Stick around. We will have some news updates, and then we'll kick it off with a little inside the training room coming up after these quick words.
Expert analysis. Dan's encyclopedic knowledge and infectious passion for all things sports is both impressive and sad.
I have many leather-bound books.
So get ready to laugh, cheer, and maybe even facepalm a few times.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
It's the Dan Kasper Show.
Second hour on this Friday morning of July 19th. Appreciate you tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in from. We are going to chat with Brandon Berg coming up here in just a few minutes, sports editor of the Chippewa Herald. Talk some Brewers and all that good stuff with him. We got a little cream of the crop coming at you a little bit later on this morning, too. We'll maybe go back to a little football talk with training camps and such for some teams underway, some getting ready to open up this weekend and on Monday. So we got all that good stuff coming at you. Don't forget, join us with the convo at by giving us a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. We begin this hour, though, like we usually do every Friday mornings, a little inside the training room.
Paging Dr. Crow. Breaking down the latest in sports injuries. It's time for Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow. You better call me a doctor. On the Dan Kasper Show. Somebody give me a doctor.
He is Dr. Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us here this morning. How you doing, Austin?
I'm doing great.
That'll boy. Hey, I want to start off news the other day. Chris Middleton apparently had 2 ankle surgeries. Said he's recovering and should be expected to get ready for the upcoming season and such. But one of the ankle surgeries was from a sprain that he had suffered in the middle of the season, or towards the end of the season. He had stepped on Kevin Durant's foot and was out for about a month. And Chris Middleton said it was probably the worst ankle sprain he has ever suffered. So one of those surgeries was to correct that. When you hear that, and obviously he played on it, played in the postseason a little bit there, but do you think something was fully torn, or how severe is that for him to, maybe still play on it, but have that surgery afterwards?
Yeah, so looking at the kind of descriptions of the surgery and the kind of the recovery time when they're looking at, it was clearly not a reconstructive surgery. So that's kind of the first fork in the road when you look at any kind of surgery on a joint, in this case, the ankle. Was this simply a quote-unquote cleanup procedure, or was this a situation where they were going in there and reconstructing ligaments, which is common? So we do a lot of ankle stabilization surgery. It's called the rostrum, where we tighten up the lateral ligaments, which is, again, very common. So with a sprain, there's always tearing of the ligaments. And we've touched on this in the past, but any sprain, by definition, you have damage to those ligaments. Now, a high grade, you have really substantial, sometimes even complete rupture of those ligaments. But the interesting thing is some ligaments in the body can heal fairly well, and the ankle is one of those. So people are able to get some healing of the, and it's generally what's called the anterior talofibular ligament, or ATFL. So the ATFL will heal in, and it doesn't always heal in well enough. In this case, it sounds like it did, because he did not have to have a stabilization procedure. So this was simply a cleanup. So with that sprain, he likely had a little residual scar tissue, potentially in the gutter. Sometimes you can scuff up the joint. Sometimes it's more than a scuff, but again, if it was serious, you'd have to have a bigger procedure. So it suggests it was probably scoping and removing some scar tissue or some tissue impinging in the gutter, and that's my suspicion. So he should bounce back pretty well. The real question, of course, is to your point, how severe was the ligament injury? And the answer is it likely wasn't bad enough to require stabilization. So hopefully it's something that he can get behind him and doesn't have to deal with anymore.
So on the other ankle, it said it was more of an arthroscopic kind of cleanup with that. Is that common for athletes, just to kind of have like a cleanup injury, or is it more common for guys who have had a history of, like, maybe in this case, spraining ankles all the time?
I mean, cleanup scopes are especially in the ankle. I mean, they're not unheard of, but they're not super common either. I mean, we don't do a ton of those. I mean, generally going in there for a structural issue, which means you're doing a scope and going in there and also addressing a cartilage injury or a significant ligament injury. In fact, often it'll be both. So there's that element, but do we get athletes that do get those kind of cleanups? I mean, you do see that. I mean, it's not uncommon to see an athlete go and get a scope, and they'll use that generalized term cleanup. We use the medical term is debridement, but you have to look at what you're actually debriding, right? So if it's the joint surface or what's called a chondroplasty, you're kind of smoothing out some cartilage irregularities. I mean, that's not a great situation because you're working on the actual articular cartilage, which we've talked about previously, as that's really one of the injuries that can go downhill, and we don't have a lot of great solutions for it. Things that can make it better for sure, but now sometimes it's more inflammation in the tissues, like a synovitis or in some joints a bursitis. You can actually have residual scar tissue that can impinge, so then you're moving actual scar tissue. So those all fall under that kind of general wastebasket term of cleanup. So it's always hard to tell exactly what was done, but you can often read between the lines based on what the injury was and what the recovery timeline is.
So for just a quick reminder, when you hear cleanup with surgeries, or in this case in the ankle, for those who maybe don't know, what exactly are they, quote, cleaning up in there?
Yeah, I mean, that's super variable, right? So like I mentioned, it could be cartilage, it could be the joint lining, it could be loose pieces floating in the joint. I mean, those, or sometimes like a partial ligament injury, they'll debride that because there can be some fraying of that tissue and that can be impinging or touching somewhere. So in the knee specifically, or the hip or shoulder, it could be meniscus, or in the shoulder and hip labrum. Those are things that can all be kind of cleaned up or debrided. So really the cleanup generally means we're using a shaver or a wand to like either shave and remove or burn tissue and remove it. So that's basically what the cleanup part is. Or fishing out pieces, loose body removal is what we call that. So there's that. And then the other end of the spectrum is full reconstructive surgeries, where you're trying to recreate or repair a structure that's in the joint. And that obviously lengthens the recovery process like tenfold. So it's a much bigger surgery when we're talking that, as opposed to a quote unquote cleanup.
Might be a stupid question, but would like cleaning up bone spurs be part of that too? Or is something that could be floating around in there, if lack of a better phrase?
Absolutely. So yeah, I did skip over that one. So bone spurs and actually ankles are one of the joints where we do remove spurs. Now, often the term spur is used somewhat interchangeably between two different things. Some physiologic shapes to joints will have a spur that we use in terms, like, for example, the shoulder. So people talk about the bone spurs in the shoulder. Now, there's bone spurs from an arthritic joint, and there's what are called acromial spurs. But most of the time when people are talking about spurs, it's an acromial spur in the shoulder. And that's actually a kind of natural shape to the shoulder, but we think it may play a role in the underlying process. Probably not as big a deal as we used to think it was, but it does play a role. Now, the ankle, with recurrent sprains, they can develop a pathologic hooking of the bone in the front of the ankle, and that spur is something that's commonly removed. And that's another possibility, that he may have like a little spurring developing anteriorly. And that the interesting part is that doesn't always correlate with arthritis. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So there are patients who will go and remove that bone from the front of the ankle, and it can really make some good improvement on range of motion and pain relief for that one. So that is the spur that we will remove as well. And they're generally not floating. Now, again, you can have little pieces break off and float in the joint, but generally those spurs are literally like a bone that's hooking into tissue and rubbing and impinging where it's not supposed to.
He's Dr. Crow inside the training rooms, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Going to baseball here for a sec. For your team, Carlos Correa, dealing with plantar fasciitis. I mean, I'm not quite sure what foot it is, but given his foot history with injuries and such, if it is on that same foot, how big of a concern is that? Is that related to his previous foot injuries potentially?
I mean, it's possibly linked, but not. It doesn't raise a lot of concern, other than the baseline concern of a previous ankle injury like he had. Certainly could come back someday, but I think this is unlikely related. And even if it is, not a huge deal. Now, those of us out there that have had it, and I've had it myself, plantar fasciitis is not fun. I don't know if you've ever had a case yourself, but
Yep.
I mean, it sounds like it's such a small deal, but man, it's like, if it's a bad case, like every step can hurt, especially early in the morning. You get up, you're like, dang, you're limping around the house. And I mean, you're like, how's this tiny little spot giving me so much trouble? So they can be a big deal. Often, especially on the pro athlete side, they try and nip these things real early. So just the beginning symptoms, they'll shut people down. They'll start doing like ultrasound treatments, occasionally steroid injections. I mean, they try to nip these early, because once they really dig in, then they're much harder to get to go away. So like a lot of things, if you can get it early, it's a lot easier to treat. So, we don't know exactly how long he's been dealing with it. But to your question, yes, previous injuries to an extremity or certainly a joint that close to where it's at, that can play a role in how you walk or how you push off or certain imbalances. So could it play a role? Maybe, but I'm not overly concerned other than the fact it's kind of an annoying thing that may take a while to go away.
Mm-hmm. To the football world, because we've got training camp starting up here for some teams already.
Right around the corner.
I know, right? One of the gruesome injuries that we saw last year, and I know we talked about it, was Nick Chubb and that knee injury that he suffered. And the Browns, they play some. He's not activated or anything like that, but he the other day or a few days ago, he was seen squatting 540 pounds at a high school in Georgia, raising hopes that he could make that comeback by September 8th. When you hear that and 540 pounds squatting and all that good stuff, is there still? I mean, does that give you a little bit more confidence that he could potentially get back on the field after suffering that gruesome knee injury?
It gives some hope for sure, but I'll tell you, I mean, squatting that is impressive. First of all, I mean, that's not a lot of human beings can do that.
Yeah.
Certainly, people recovering from a surgery like this is an impressive feat. So, first and foremost, congratulations to him on that recovery. But the ligaments aren't huge with inline loading of the leg. So simply squatting up and down, although impressive, that's not what you really need your ACL. And I think he was MCL as well. That's for cutting, pivoting. So for him to do an inline movement like that, again, great that he's recovering the strength because that is an important part for sure. But to translate that to like, hey, let's get in the NFL field and take your body weight and try cut and pivot on a dime like they need to do to be successful NFL running backs, that's a big, big, big step further. So is it positive? Absolutely. Is it showing that he's like almost there? It doesn't. Now, if you saw him out in the field cutting and pivoting, then you're going to start saying, all right, now I'm a little more impressed with where he's at. I can tell you, I mean, he's if I remember, his injury was early on in the year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wasn't it in the first couple of weeks?
Yep.
So, I mean, to be a year recovered from a multi-leg knee, I mean, that's possible. Not unheard of, but I would tell you it's going to be, I'm sure his surgeon's kind of holding his breath when he starts coming back from that, because those kind of big reconstructions, they're very challenging surgeries, and the recovery is always a challenge. And when we look at these guys, I mean, their bodies are just built different, right? I mean, again, some people could train their whole life and never do that, let alone 9 to 10 months out from a major reconstructive surgery. So it just proves what kind of specimens these people are. But at the end of the day, there is a healing process that needs to occur and kind of get those ligaments back to where they need to be. So positive, yes. Definitive, no.
Interesting. Former Badger, I know we talked about him when it first happened too, but news yesterday that he's probably going to miss this entire season. Ryan Ramczyk, the offensive lineman for the New Orleans Saints. And just a reminder, he had knee surgery, but they were actually saying it's significant cartilage damage. So, I mean, could this potentially be a Bakhtiari 2.0 version, it sounds like?
Unfortunately, yes. And it's just, and we beat that horse dead in the past, but absolutely cartilage-based injuries are always our nemesis. So when we have any injury to a joint, I mean, that's the one thing that we look at and say, all right, how's the cartilage looking? And when it looks good, it makes the prognosis so much better. I mean, you'd probably almost rather have a multi-ligament injury like Chubb than a simple ACL with a large cartilage defect, even a small cartilage defect, because our ability to get that to heal and regrow is just limited. And so there are different procedures and newer things that are coming out that are giving us some optimism. But at the end of the day, we still don't have a perfect solution for that. Who knows, someday we'll be able to just maybe fire in a couple stem cells and it regrows itself, hooray, hurrah, but we're not there now. So the problem is these are also just massive human beings, right? So the forces they put across their joint are just beyond what normal people are doing. So you take any joint that would have an issue and then you make that exponentially worse by, this guy's, probably 280, 300 pounds, and he's trying to push around other 280 or 300 pound guys.
Yeah.
So the forces across this knee are just going to be tremendous. So yes, it's a concern. Yes, it has the potential to be career ending. Is it for sure? No. I mean, if it's a smaller lesion and they're trying to catch it early and say, look, we'll take our medicine, we'll do a surgery this offseason and see if we can get it to heal up. Is there potential? For sure. But it is also, red flags galore when it comes to cartilage injuries in any joint, frankly.
Oh man, that stinks. That stinks for him. So he's Dr. Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine inside the training room. Appreciate it as always, Austin. I'm sure we're unfortunately knock on wood it doesn't happen, but it feels like that first week of training camp, we're going to see some injuries and such. So we might have some more football stuff to be talking about next week.
It is part of the business. I mean, it's unfortunate, but my buddy and I were just kind of chatting the other day about what sports mean to our society, and I mean, it's such a big part professionally, but even at the youth level. I mean, it's just just a shout out to all the people that are involved in youth sports, and all the high schoolers who are getting ready for the season, the coaches, all the time that people put in. It just teaches so many young men and women, the being team players, what they learn, and so it's such an amazing part of what we do. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to help people get back on the field, and I love that. But there's so many people that are involved in making that all happen. But yeah, unfortunately, injuries are part of it, but we do our best to keep people out there.
Well said, sir. Well said. All right. Well, you have a good weekend, man, and we'll catch up soon. Okay, bud?
Absolutely. Take care.
You got it. There you go. Dr. Crow inside the training room, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. All right, let's take a quick break here, and then we'll bring in Mr. Berg, Brandon Berg from the Chippewa Herald. We'll talk a little Brewers and such and all that good stuff. So first up, got a break, and then we'll be back in just a few minutes. 2 weeks from today, Brandon. 2 weeks from today, we'll be over at Princeton Valley Golf Course, and right about now is when the likes of Surveyor Sam and Philly Fan Dave and those guys will be teeing off for the first session. There, we still got a couple of spots open for that 7:30 a.m. session. If you want to head to sportstalk1051.com, get your team signed up before it's too late. The 10 a.m. and the 1:30 p.m. tee times are all spoken for out there. So a thank you to all of you who have signed up for that. But right now we're again 2 weeks away, and we could use some prize donations for our raffles. 100% of the proceeds going to Backyard Dreams from these raffle prizes out there. So if you would like to help out, let us know with a prize donation. Shout out to Spectrum Industries for the chair donation. Brandon dropped it off. They've done it the last couple years here, so thank you to them. Shout out. We've got a nice, Brandon. It's over there. It's a bottle of scotch. You see the
I was
box right
wondering
there?
about that.
Little Victory Scotch over there. It's a really sweet bottle here too. Let me bring up the info from the expert. So we picked it up from Hy-Vee the other day, but this is an 18-year aged bottle of scotch. It is Highland Park over there too. So it's decently. You're talking about 3 digits, over $100 bottle of scotch right now. So that's going to be a prize. We've got a Jordan Love jersey. We've got a Giannis jersey. We've got a Packer football. We've got 4 tickets to the Brewers versus Guardians game for that weekend. So that's going to be a big one there coming up August. I believe it's the Sunday game, August 18th. So 2 potentially playoff teams leading their divisions right now. We got 4 tickets that we're going to be giving away for that as well, and some cards and stuff from Service Master. But we could, if you would like to help out and maybe donate a prize, maybe if it's just a $25 gift card or something like that, reach out to us, because 100% of the proceeds going to Backyard Dreams. And speaking of Backyard Dreams, we want to help out. So if you know, especially with football maybe starting up, or maybe some little league teams, if they've got some tournaments, traveling tournaments, state tournaments coming up, and they could use a little bit of help financially, let us know. We want to help. So hit me up with an email. Or hit me up with a message on Facebook with some details, because we want to help out. That's what Backyard Dreams is for. So just let us know so we can help out. But a big thanks to all of our sponsors for the 4th annual Casper Classic. Again, Princeton Valley Golf Course for hosting us. They will have the Bloody Mary bar back this year too, the Build Your Own Bloody Mary bar. So that's going to be back. We got to thank Hy-Vee, our Champions Meal sponsors, beverage sponsors, Park Ridge Distributing, Putting Green sponsors, Gemco Surfaces. We've got the Title Belt sponsors, Residence Branding Company. Title Belts are sitting right over there. I'm surprised Brandon hasn't played with them yet, because that's the closest he'll get to them. The Green Jacket sponsors, Muldoon's Menswear. We got Carpet City Flooring Center, AJM Automotive Service, The Elbow Room, Edward Jones Financial Advisor, Kelsey Nikolai, Doodah Gin, Hannah Sellner, Agency American Family Insurance, Shepke Chiropractic, Shoe Doctor, Service Master, Chippewa Valley, Myron Construction, VFW Post 305. Oh, and I forgot to mention, we will have a $500 gift card we're raffling off from Tilden Gun.
Ooh.
And there's a limited amount of raffle tickets for that. So your chances increase for that. So instead of, we're going to go pick up a deer rifle or that, because this way you can choose what you want. So there's going to be a limited number of those tickets. So your chances of potentially winning that are greater. So I think we're just going to do the deck of cards. So 52 chances. That's not too bad. So we'll have that out there as well. So 2 weeks already though from today, man.
Yeah.
Hard to believe.
Comes up quick.
It does. So, all right, let's get things rolling here for the bottom part of this hour, Brandon. How did you enjoy All-Star break? It's kind of a break for you too. Not a whole lot going on, but
no, I mean, I think as usual, it came in a good time for the Brewers.
Yeah, maybe not for Willie Dominus. That guy was hitting hot right now. So
yeah, I mean, not everybody was kind of scuffing a little bit going into the break, but pops in at a good time and
Absolutely.
ready to get back at it this weekend.
Yeah. So you're going to be at, is it the Saturday game?
The Saturday game.
Saturday game. So tomorrow's game
Minnesota.
in Minnesota there. So, kind of this week, we were talking about, who are some of the more key players, crucial players, people, if you will, to make sure that the Brewers finish this thing off in first place, back to the postseason. But I think it's fair to say, too, not only just get to the postseason, but make a run in the postseason, win some games in the postseason and such. Who do you think are some of those crucial? And I say people because I do include Pat Murphy if you want to include him on there. But, is it a guy like Willie Adames to continue to provide that protection behind Christian Yelich? Is it Freddie Peralta maybe to kind of get better in the second half or pitch a little bit better? Is it Devin Williams who's coming back, and really solidifying that bullpen? I mean, I think we could come up with a few different guys out there, but is there anybody that kind of jumps out to your mind at that top right away?
I mean, all those players and people you mentioned, I think are good choices. I mean, for me, when you look at any time a team has, success in the postseason, certainly you have those high end players, the Christian Yelich's, the William Contreras', the Willie Adames', but I think you look at times where teams have made deep playoff runs and they're kind of getting contributions from more ancillary players.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's a Joey Ortiz being able to, come back and get back in the swing of things and solidify third base again. Maybe it's Sal Frelick, who has really hit the ball well, the few weeks leading into the All-Star breaks. Just, maybe it's a Rhys Hoskins kind of, rediscovering that power stroke a little bit more consistently. He's someone that's, going to have as much postseason experience as anyone on that team, if they make it.
Right.
So he's a guy that, it's been a bit up and down, especially since coming back from that injury. But, if he goes out there and does what he's done in postseasons past, if that time comes, people won't remember if he only hit, 230 or 240 in the regular season. So,
right.
I think someone like Hoskins would be important because he's been there like in first base. So we've talked about it really since Prince Fielder's left, but there were some pop-up good years with Eric Thames and Jesus Aguilar, but
the legendary Matt Gamble era never panned out.
It never really got off the ground. But that's kind of been a bit of a revolving door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I mean, last year, 2022 and 2023, I think was the first time since Prince Fielder left that the Brewers started the same first baseman opening day 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
Which was Rowdy Tellez.
Mm-hmm.
So I think getting a little bit more out of Rhys Hoskins would be big. And remember, he's someone that's coming off a significant injury. So I don't think it's unforeseen that maybe early on it would be a little bit hit or miss just as he's kind of getting back in the swing of things, no pun intended. But, maybe the second half here, he can go because I think that's a big bat to have in the middle of the lineup.
Right. Yeah. And you mentioned that leadership too, because I mean, he's coming from the Phillies where that expectation is to, not just get to the postseason, it's to win a World Series over there. So to kind of bring that mindset, what did you make of, and this is a while ago, but I think it was over the weekend when Pat Murphy had that leadership council meeting and that sort of stuff. And there was a quote from Pat Murphy on there, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but he's saying, there is a high standard. He gives the sense that doesn't matter that they're young, doesn't matter, they got a lot of, rookie or younger guys over there and they weren't supposed to be this good. It seems like he's like, maybe I'll bring it up here to get the exact quote, but it almost felt like from what I was reading there was that, it's just his expectations are pretty freaking high for this team. And when they kind of falter a little bit, he wants to kind of call him out on that a little bit. Do you think that's the right approach for this team right now?
I think so, because I think that really just kind of leans into accountability.
Yeah.
And the idea like, hey, when things are going well, you're going to get, the sunshine, but, hey, it's not always going to go well, but you need to make sure that, if things aren't going well, that you're being accountable for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This was the quote from Murphy. We're trying to play to a standard. I just won't tolerate. We're just going through a rough stretch. Maybe I should, but I like to bring it to the forefront in these types of sessions. And that leadership council, or the pillars, as he calls them, again, no big surprises who's on there. It's Rhys Hoskins, it's Freddie Peralta, it's Willie Adames, it's Contreras, it's Wade Miley, and it's Christian Yelich over there too, which, I mean, I think those are guys we would all probably expect, right? And yeah, I'm pretty sure Woodruff would be on there too. I probably started off with guys who were opening up the season
Right.
on that roster there too. So, but yeah, he said, I haven't liked what I saw for the last couple of weeks. I mean, it feels like, and again, I'm not trying to pick on him, but it feels like it's not that typical, because I could see Council saying this, we're working through it. It's just a tough stretch right now. It's baseball sort of thing. It feels like Murphy's the opposite of that, where he doesn't want to use that as an excuse.
And even I don't know if this whole team leadership council thing is like new this year or not.
Mm-hmm.
But even if they had it before, like it always seemed like obviously Craig Council he wanted to keep everything kind of in house and I'll say vague, but just like you're right. Like even if this exact same thing went on before, which is possible, I don't know, but like he wouldn't know,
right?
Like you wouldn't know.
Yeah, you didn't really hear anything too much come out of the clubhouse under the council era,
right
over there, and
I
believe that there's different types of leadership.
Yeah, there's different ways you can be successful. It's not like you have like, well, if you're going to win, you must do this.
Because if there was only one way, everybody would be doing it.
Correct.
And it would be pretty boring.
It would.
It would be pretty boring at that point. So, when you look at this second half now, I was looking at strength of schedule. I don't know if you're a believer in strength of schedule. I know you hear it a lot in football and such, but I saw how it was ranked for the Brewers, and they were 16th, so about middle of the pack there. But when you see that and you look at the rest of the division, Cardinals the biggest concern right now, catching up. Is there another team though that you think would be somebody to kind of maybe pay attention to? I know the Pirates are at 500 right now. Could they make that? The Cubs are still there, or is it just it's a 2-team race right now, do you think, between Brewers and Cardinals?
I think as a Brewers fan, you're always going to just have this perennial angst when it comes to the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And I've always said, like, for me as a Brewers fan, I dislike, am leery, however you want to say it, the Cardinals a lot more than the Cubs, because ultimately the Cubs haven't really done anything to the Brewers over the years.
Yeah.
They just bring a bunch of fans to the American Family Field, 7 times a year or whatever it is. But the Cardinals they've dealt the Brewers some significant blows over the years. So you kind of have a little bit of that, in the back of your mind whenever that happens. But, the Brewers have a nice head up in the head-to-head, which, remember, there's no tiebreaker at the end of the year, so that's helpful.
Yep.
The Pirates are interesting. They've got obviously a little bit of buzz with them now with Paul Skeens and what they might do. I mean, there are some good players on that team. It's just going to be one of those things you kind of have to see it before you believe it, because it's been a while since they've been legitimately good. So we'll see how that develops. But those are the ones I would say. I mean, the Cubs, they played better going into the break. They swept the Orioles. I think they split the floor with the Cardinals. So, I mean, they're not that far out of the wild card race, and that's the thing. The wild card race is keeping a lot of teams in it. So, we'll see how that
affects the trade deadline, right?
Said that, yeah, we're roughly 2 weeks away from that. Even actually maybe a little bit under.
Yeah, July 30th. So a little bit
under.
Yeah,
a week and a half. So we've got a lot of teams that are. I mean, it's a seller's market. If you're out, if you're the White Sox and you want to trade Garrett Crochet and Eric Fetty and Luis Robert, like you should have market. You should be able to come away looking pretty good out of that. But that's why this next week is big. I mean, that Cubs series next week is honestly bigger for the Cubs than it is the Brewers. If the Brewers go down to Wrigley and sweep the Cubs, maybe that's their decision. They're out. Subsequently, if the Cubs sweep the Brewers, maybe the Cubs say, okay, hey, let's make a move here.
Right. Yeah, you're right. I think this is a big weekend heading into next week, a little bit for a lot of these teams.
Right. It's kind of moving week a little bit.
And I mean, is it clearly obvious it's still a starter? With the Dallas Keuchel DFA news for the Brewers.
Yeah, and I mean, even when Keuchel was kind of making some starts, it felt like he really needed to pitch well to kind of keep a spot, and he couldn't do it. Like,
he couldn't go past 4 innings. It seems
I think he's someone that had a lot of success limiting hard contact, and when you just watch games like that, it just unfortunately was not able to command the edges. Just far too many pitches up and far too many pitches right down the middle, and he didn't get hit as hard as he could have.
Right.
And I think the Brewers recognize, hey, that and then coming out of the break, like you can kind of work it because you kind of reset your rotation here a little bit. I don't think they've announced who's starting the 2 games this weekend, but
I checked this morning.
You've got 5. Yeah, you've got 5 games. You got a day off next Thursday, and then you got another week's worth of games. So, and then by then you'd think you'd have an addition. So, I think as another starter, or 2 or whatever. I mean, maybe you want to adjust things in the bullpen a little bit. Like, I mean, obviously there's a few guys that were really good last year that are struggling this year with Payamps and Hobie Milner. And
Mm-hmm.
how do you kind of rearrange that a little bit? Does someone come out and someone come in?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and even like the offense, like I think if you added, my thinking is like a corner infielder, like someone that can play first base, third base.
Okay. Like a power guy, maybe?
Maybe. I mean, I think as long as you're productive, it's not a big deal. Specifically, maybe somebody that can hit lefties, but it's not necessary because I think between Andrew Monasterio and Jake Bauers, like you can upgrade one of those ways.
Okay.
Like if I don't know if you necessarily need someone that can be a backup shortstop because you have 3 infield. You have your second baseman, your shortstop, and your third base that can all play shortstop.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you give Willie Adames a day off, which right now he doesn't get very
doesn't,
many,
which is kind of surprising considering they have that versatility,
right,
isn't it?
Right. But I mean, if it's right now, I think part of that is I think we both know Adames and Contreras don't really like to take days off if they can help it. So, so maybe a corner guy that gives you a little bit more offensively. And, Jake Bauers has been fine. He's been around league average in OPS. So, I mean, it's not like, he's honestly been better than I was expecting given his numbers the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
But still, like, if you're looking to lengthen that lineup, like you can upgrade there.
Yeah.
Be it, Bauers or Monasterio, like one or the other, like it almost feels like you could maybe get one that can kind of do what you're looking for. And then maybe you do keep the other, but I mean, those are kind of the big things I'm looking for position-wise. Obviously, outfielder's probably not going to be needed.
Right.
Catcher's going to be interesting once Gary Sanchez gets a little bit closer, but it sounds like that might not be too soon.
Okay. Even though he was in the dugout, I don't know if you saw it, like, I think last week or the week before, he walked in the dugout and was like high-fiving guys, and they're like, "Oh, is he back on the roster?" or something like that. But
I think he's just hanging out.
And
Eric Casas, he's done all right since coming up. I mean, I think the bar for a backup catcher is always a bit lower, just because it's not always a big, offensive heavy position, especially for your backup. So, yeah. And then there's always the idea that the Brewers could just make a move that you don't see coming. Not like the Josh Hader trade, but just like like trading for Mike Moustakas to play second base, or having, or moving Travis Shaw there, kind of a thing. Like they're not afraid to kind of think outside the box when it comes to how they upgrade. I mean, I think of the Drew Pomeranz trade in 2019 where they got, arguably their best reliever down the stretch, who was a starter with a 5+ ERA at the time. So, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. The last few years when the Brewers have traded for relievers, it hasn't worked. Andrew Chafin, John Curtis, Trevor Rogers, like it just, sometimes it does. I mean, for every Joaquin Soria that came in and was really good in 2018, there's, some guys that just don't work out. That's just kind of the nature of the deadline.
I'm really curious if they add another starter. You got Devin Williams coming back. How that bullpen is going to look. For one, I mean, because I can't imagine they're going to throw Devin as the closer right away. Probably build him up right and put him in some situations just to get his feet wet. So, but when he does, say Trevor McGill, I know could he be a trade piece, but say he's a setup guy then, Devin Williams, because Pat Murphy said he'd like to have that traditional roles, kind of set up. You got your 6-7. I'm sure Hudson's going to be in there somewhere. But then you got these guys that could go multiple innings in your bullpen. You got a Wilson. You've got
Junis.
Yeah, Junis over there. And then, I don't know what Joe Ross would potentially be.
He's someone that I think could be honestly better out of the bullpen because he's been more, he is a 3-pitch pitcher, but he kind of leans more on 2, and like the velocity. Jared Koenig will be back. The velocity could tick up for Ross out of the bullpen. But honestly, you kind of feel bad for a guy like Rob Sestrizny, who's done really well.
Yeah.
But it's just like you almost feel like he's just lower in that pecking order. Like when Jared Koenig comes back, like he pitched so well, like you're not gonna not use him. So is a guy like Sestrizny, like depending on when Koenig comes back, is he a trade piece? Now, it's not a significant trade piece, but like if you're another contender and you need a lefty, and you're watching that situation. I mean,
let me throw another scenario at you, not to interrupt, but like the other guy I didn't mention there, but could it be an Aaron Ashby type of thing where they keep him DL Hall? He opens up the season as a starter, so I'm assuming they still want him as a starter, but at this point, is he a bullpen guy? But then just because they've got all these guys coming back, is he the guy like, okay, you've got options yet? Do we just kind of keep you down in AAA?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, you're always trying to kind of keep as many people as you can. I mean, that's that might be a scenario that works out that way. I mean,
Mhm.
now they bought a little bit more time, unfortunately, because of getting hit with the line, the comebacker. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, these are not easy decisions that are going to have to be made.
Mhm. And I guess the question too is, they got options, right? Are they the best options?
Right.
And I mean, that's what they got to answer. That's what they got to
Right.
figure out.
And you're going to have people coming back onto the 40-man roster, which, I mean, you can only have 40 people on the 40-man roster. And generally, you
Mhm.
keep that pretty close to full. So you're going to have some guys that are maybe getting designated for assignment. Like let's put it this way. When we're out on the deck in 2 weeks at Princeton before the Casper, and we're talking about this, it's gonna look different.
Yeah.
I don't know what the Brewers are going to necessarily do, but I don't believe they're just going to stand pat and say,
Yeah.
we like who we have.
Right.
I think they're going to make a move, especially for a starter.
Mhm.
Who that is. I mean, next week maybe that's something we can get into. I can put together a list. I know I've done it in the years
Oh, yeah.
past. Like, hey,
Give us some targets, man.
get some targets, and we'll
If
see.
nothing
Last year I
happens
hit a
leading-
Mark Cannon. I was pretty proud of that one. So
we got to take a break, but quick. Brandon's mom here. Good morning from Country Jam Guards. My I don't know what she's. I think she's. Your mom's trying to say, but Peralta has to get with the program and pitch like he can. Brandon, have a great time. Bring back a win. So
I'll do my best.
all right, pressure's on now. Mom put it on
Yeah.
you. So all right, let's take a quick break and then we'll finish up the second hour coming up here. We'll put up another matchup. We're gonna finalize the Sweet 16, Brandon, today for our bracket over here. So we'll announce another matchup from the Brewers region coming up next. Need an oil change, or maybe you need some new tires for your vehicle? Look no further than ASAP Used Auto Parts in Eau Claire. I'll actually be taking my vehicle over there next week for an oil change. So it's that time of year. Maybe with some hate to say last minute summer vacation trips, but if you need to get some new treads, or you need to update that oil for those road trips, or maybe it's just time, that due date has passed, head on over to ASAP Used Auto Parts and schedule your appointment for that oil change or some new tires. We got about 6 minutes to the top here, so I want to wrap this thing up so we get to the Sweet 16 heading into the week, or by Monday that we'll have the Sweet 16 set. So far, just a quick recap of where we stand right now. Giovanni Gallardo is in the Sweet 16. Ben Sheets is in the Sweet 16. John Stocco is in the Sweet 16. Al Toon is in the Sweet 16. Joe Pavelski is in the Sweet 16. Brandon Jennings is in the Sweet 16. Terry Porter, Steve Stricker, Lynn Dickey, and Chuck Cecil are all in the Sweet 16. Right now, a quick update on our first matchup. It is tight. It too close to call, and it was only up for hour and a half. But Amon Green versus Nick Collins, 50-50 on Twitter. Nick Collins is up by 1 on Facebook.
Ooh.
So it is tight
Mm-hmm.
right now. Let's add another Brewer one, shall we? Let's do another Brewer one here. Let's go with Jim Gantner versus Lyle Overbay. Jim Gantner versus Lyle Overbay. So I'll add it up to our Facebook page and Twitter after when we're on our top of the hour break over there too. So give you a few minutes to think about that. The winner of that one then will go up against Ben Sheets in the Sweet 16 for a spot in the Elite 8. So make sure you're voting for the Amon Green and Nick Collins one, and then we'll have the Ben Sheets versus, or excuse me, the Jim Gantner and Lyle Overbay one over there. Then I think what I'm also going to do, Brandon, is launch the final Badger one for a Sweet 16 spot and the final Buck/open one, but this is going to be an open matchup here.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Get him out there.
And then we'll just have one more Brewer and one more Packer one, but those are usually the more popular ones.
Yeah.
So we can do that a little bit later on here too. So,
yeah.
But yeah, okay, we'll do that coming up in the next hour. So, we'll catch up on some local stuff. I know we got CRBL was playoffs starting coming up here.
A couple weeks.
Couple weeks yet.
But we got the next Tuesday is the Senior Legion Baseball Regionals up in Superior. Both Chippewa and Eau Claire will be up there. So I think teams are kind of wrapping up their regular season for Legion. I know Chippewa's down, and I believe Plover. They're always in Plover right before the tourney. And you know, last week Eau Claire had their big tournament over at Carson. So
the River City.
So yeah, we're gonna. You mentioned we're wrapping up and kind of looking at your last summer trips. I mean, we're getting down to it where we got a week and a half left of July-ish once we get through this weekend, and time flies.
It is, man. Oh man, where did it go? All right, we'll get back to some more baseball talk coming up in the next hour or two. We'll talk a little football and such. Got maybe some Badger chat to throw in here too. Oh, in the next couple of minutes, I've been saying all week, you were probably the one that's been doing it. Is NCAA 25 lived up to the hype?
I'm satisfied.
Okay.
I'm pleased. Yeah. Like, I mean,
that's not a resounding yes.
Well, no, but I mean, I don't think I'm the kind of person that's going to be like, this is the greatest video game ever, yada, yada, yada. Like, I'm not going to connect to the video game at my age as I would have, 15, 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But it is everything I think it needs to be. Like,
okay.
It's good. Like, everything that they kind of say, okay, this is what we're doing with this has been good for me.
Okay. All right. So it's
worth it. I mean, there's obviously there's room in the future years to kind of grow off of it, but that's fine. Like, for a start, it's a good starting point.
Okay.
So I'm satisfied.
So they are going to do it every year, it sounds like?
I believe so.
Like,
I mean, especially
like Madden and that?
Yeah. Like, I mean, at this point, they don't think they brought it back just for one. I mean, there's going to be such a... I would be very curious. I don't know if we'll know this, to know, like, the buys for it.
Oh, yeah.
just...
Yep.
And it's funny because, like, normally for video games, you think more of a younger crowd, even though, I mean, obviously video games is something anybody can do and many different ages do. But I'm very curious, like, if we could know, like, the amount of people our age,
Yeah.
because I have to imagine it's probably pretty significant compared to others.
It's nostalgia, right?
Right.
Reminiscent a little
right.
bit from your entering in
Younger
all
days.
the players' names and that, even though we knew who they were, but they had a
Yeah.
different name or
Quarterback number 7, you're whoever.
yeah, but you could easily tell. Like I always use the example when I was into the March Madness games and like when I'd play as Marquette, I'm like, oh, that's easily Travis Deaner. He wears number 34,
Yeah.
and oh, number 3 from Marquette, who's that? Oh, that's
Dwayne
Dwayne
Wade,
Wade.
right.
So, but
That's what we need next. Any college basketball game.
I'd buy that. Yeah.
Yeah, we need that.
Mhm.
So, but you got to go one at a time. I'm sure this was kind of the testing waters. So,
Yep. Exactly. All right, 2 in. We've got one more go here. We'll post that next matchup up, and then you know what? I'll post all 3 right away
let's do it.
to get
Get
this
them out
going
there.
here. So, all right, news updates. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Final hour on this Friday morning TGIF action coming at you. Appreciate you tuning in, making us part of your starts. We've got all the ones for the rest of the day here today. So for our bracket challenge, we're going to wrap up and get this Sweet 16 settled. Jim Gantner, Lyle Overbay. Right now, Jim Gantner's out to an early lead for the final Badger one to punch a ticket. Kirk Penny versus Scott Tolzien. That one's at 50-50 right now in the early votes. And then in the Bucks/Open region, going back to Thorpe, Andy North versus Eric Hayden, the Olympian there. So you can now vote in our Facebook group page or vote on Twitter. Vote on Twitter. So they are all up for you to vote. It's all determined by you. So we'll see how this one plays out. Still very, very, very tight between Amon Green and Nick Collins. That I would say that's right at 50-50. So make sure you get your votes in on there. Otherwise, we'll have to decide by the flip of a coin, and we don't want that to happen by any means. So, all right. When do your Vikings of Minnesota start training camp?
I'm not entirely sure, but
what kind of fan are
I
you?
don't know.
Good Lord, man. I don't know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. I know. I think it might be like early next week. Like that. I think that's veterans report. I think you might be starting to see like some rookies and stuff trickle in this weekend.
Okay. I got your schedule here for you. I got you hooked up here. So the full training camp for the Vikes, maybe not. Why have a website when you don't have anything on there? Literally, there's nothing on there. Well, get your team's website together, okay?
I'll call some people.
Figure it out. That was awful. That didn't help me at all. Players report the 21st. Veterans report the 23rd.
Okay, so this weekend and 23rd is next Tuesday.
So a couple days after Green Bay. So, what are some of the storylines you're paying attention to your team heading into camp? Quarterback.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be number one. I mean, even if JJ McCarthy does not play a snap this season, that's going to be a hot topic.
Yeah,
and not just JJ McCarthy, but obviously what does Sam Darnold do? I mean, at this point, we know Sam Darnold is he's been a bit of a traveler since he got drafted by the Jets, but I don't think it's a stretch to say that this is the best opportunity he's had as a starter. I mean, he was a backup in the Niners last year, and obviously that's a better team, but he played sparingly.
Right.
So, I mean, what can he do with a coaching staff that, in theory, you believe knows what they're doing, which I'm not sure he had that with the Jets or the Panthers. With a supporting cast, like what does that look like? I mean, let's put it this way: if he can't put it together this year, that's probably his last shot at being a starter. At that point, then you become a backup.
Yeah.
If you can't make it work with Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones and TJ Hawkinson when he gets back, etc. That's one.
What's your expectation on Aaron Jones this year?
To me, a lot of what I expect out of Aaron Jones is going to be roped into Ty Chandler, who's played down the stretch last year, played well, because I think ultimately, and this is not going to probably be too much of a surprise for Packer fans, like I think you need to be leery about limiting his touches. I know at times that that kind of irritated Packer fans last year, or even just throughout his tenure. But I think he's someone that you're not going to give the ball 300 times to. I just don't think there's many of those running backs right now.
Right.
So I think the best way you can help Aaron Jones is by Ty Chandler taking another step forward to where maybe you give Aaron Jones 15 carries a game and Ty Chandler, 5 or 6 versus, okay, well, this other guy really isn't working. So Aaron, we're going to have to, put a little bit more on your plate. So that's kind of my expectation there. I'm interested to see kind of how it looks for him in the offense, not just running the ball, but obviously we know he can catch the ball too. And
right.
That was just something that really Alexander Masson couldn't do. He wasn't much of a threat. And plus, I think Aaron Jones is going to be valuable when it comes to pass protection in the backfield, which is obviously whoever the quarterback is, that's a quarterback's friend. Otherwise, for the Vikings, I would say interested in the interior of the offensive line, how that shakes out. Like Brandel, who was a backup, looking like he might be the starter at left guard, kind of a developmental guy, see how that works. They brought back Dalton Reisner. Like, does Dalton Reisner, do they move him over to the right guard and have him battle with Ed Ingram, who's a younger guy, but he's, he was better in year 2 than he was in year 1, but he still wasn't great in year 2. So, what does that look like? Defensively, I'm very curious at the edge rusher group because you have Daniil Hunter and DJ Wanham leave, but you bring in 3 and Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, and you draft Dallas Turner. Like, I think if you were like power ranking those 5 like by best, Daniil Hunter's definitely number 1. But I think those other 3 that they brought in, I would probably put 2, 3, 4. And the one thing I would say is I don't think any of those guys will be better than Daniil Hunter, but I think they're much better fits for Brian Flores.
Okay.
Daniil Hunter's a 4-3, put your hand in the dirt and get after a guy. Like, he was playing a bit out of position last year, but he still did well with it. But I think those 3 that they brought in are all much better fits for the defense. And you need, I'm a firm believer, you need at least 3 pass rushers, even if, 1 or 2 are significantly better. Like, you need to be able to rotate and mix and match and stuff like that. You can't just say like, well, that's our you can't, essentially last year, DJ Wanham had a couple good games, but it was like, okay, the pass rush is probably going to come from Daniil Hunter. Like, you can't just have one guy. Obviously that's easier for defenses to hone in on. So, and I think just in general, I'm kind of interested to see the team in this first year past Kirk Cousins, because, for better or worse, like these last 6 years, however long Kirk Cousins was there, like there was kind of a well-defined floor and ceiling with the team. Like, they weren't going to be awful because Kirk Cousins wasn't an awful quarterback, but at the same time, like, you kind of knew there was a certain level.
Yeah, a certain base.
He was very consistent, and that was a good thing, but also, like, there's just such a wider range of outcomes. And even if that doesn't end up being good, because NFC North is obviously much improved from what it was a couple years ago, like, I'm curious to see what that looks like. And I'm curious to see kind of how they manage that.
Yeah. I think this NFC North is going to be really interesting to watch this year. Not to get into a season prediction preview because we got time for that and such, but I don't know if it'll live up to some of the thought. I mean, obviously, I think everybody outside of fans of our respective teams is curious, excited to see what the Bears with what all their changes over there. The Lions can they take another step forward? Right. I mean, there's storylines all across each team in this division that I think is going to be really fun to kind of watch.
The thing I will say is I don't think any of these teams will be boring.
No, I think
you look at like the NFC South, like New Orleans Saints, like, okay, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, the Panthers, we'll see what they do with the new coach year 1. Obviously, the Falcons have Cousins, and then you have Tampa, who kind of is running it back. And I mean, they were successful, but that's still a bit boring. But like, there's just boring teams where it's just kind of like, oh yeah, But like, I feel like in the NFC North, all of these teams, there's different.
And it seems like it's different for each team.
It is. You have, obviously, you have the Lions and the Packers, who are both in the playoffs, who, they're looking to build off. Like, it wasn't. You don't feel like last year was like, okay, that it's never going to get any better. Like, you feel like it could be better, for both of them.
I feel like for like the Packers sense is like, it's a different type of pressure for Love this year. Last year it was like, show you can play, show you can be a starter.
Yeah.
This year it's like, okay, prove that last year wasn't a fluke.
Right. Show what you did down the stretch last year is something you can do for 17 games.
And probably at that point too, live up to the contract that you're going to be
right.
getting.
Because at some point, that's going to happen. In the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So,
I kind of chuckled at the whole "is he going to show up or not" sort of thing. I get it to an extent, but it was like, now are we just kind of grasping a little bit here? So, but didn't mean to cut you off, but no.
No.
And then obviously we know the Bears with their new quarterback, and it's kind of weird that I feel like it's pretty much a lot of the talk is surrounding the offense when you don't really think about that for the Bears. It's always about defense and such. But I mean, you get it. You look at it.
You've got a number 1 draft pick at a quarterback, and you've got I think they've done a good job surrounding him with the offensive line's getting better. The receivers they've added. The running backs I think are still a little meh, but I'm sure Caleb Williams is going to appreciate throwing to Roman Dunzier, Keenan Allen, and DJ Moore.
Yeah.
And I think my thing with the Bears is we still don't really know if Matt Eberflus is good at his job.
Yes.
And that's the one thing I will say, if you're comparing them to the Vikings, like at least Kevin O'Connell, like you kind of have I mean, 2 years ago they won 13 games. Now, granted, obviously that was a very unique outlier kind of season, but like you can at least you kind of know that they can do it, in the right, in the ideal situation. Like we still don't know if Matt Eberflus a good coach.
I feel like, yeah, like this is a big year for Eberflus because all the attention is on the offense. You're a defensive-minded coach. This is the year to show that, okay.
They brought in Shane Waldron to
Yep.
run the offense. There's
Yep.
moving that around. He's had some success previously, so that was a good hire.
I also feel like, though, for your coach, for O'Connell, though, too, with the new quarterbacks coming in, this is something for kind of like what Matt LaFleur was last year.
It's like, these are your guys now. Like,
Yep.
with Kirk Cousins, he didn't really, there was some acclimation process moving him over to that system, but like, he was an established veteran quarterback. He wasn't going to just fall off the map and be awful.
Right.
Now you're bringing in, guys that like, okay, these guys are on you. Like this development of JJ McCarthy is on you. Like if it sinks or swims, it's all on you. If Sam Darnold has a really good year, it was probably because of, the work he was able to do with O'Connell, that kind of thing. Like, it's kind of your chance to work with, a different lump of clay, so to speak.
Yep. Yeah. It kind of a comparison to, I think, to LaFleur last year was like, okay, a lot of your credit might be with Aaron and all that. We'll see how good you are now. And then it's a little bit different because you're going to start with a veteran, and then
like you're not going straight to the youngster,
right?
But it's similar to where if that works, then suddenly he's going to be looked at as, oh, he really knows it, kind of like how people are looking at LaFleur now.
Because you think there's an outside still perspective. When I say outside, non-Vikings fans, when you look at Kevin O'Connell, oh, it's just another Sean McVay type of guy.
Yeah, like a guy off the tree. Like, when he was the offensive coordinator when they won the Super Bowl, he wasn't calling the plays. Like, and then he gets to Minnesota and he's working with Kirk Cousins, which again, Kirk Cousins has a pretty high floor. So, he can do things. So, now what does it look like when he's not working with a guy that's been in the NFL for, 8, 10, 12 years, whatever it is.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, there's definitely, I look at the NFC North, I think both the Norths, AFC North too, is going to be kind of fun to watch. With their quarterback situation in Pittsburgh, Cleveland, does Deshaun Watson actually play up to that contract now? I don't know if you saw this. Warren Sharp had tweeted this out, and I saved it. I'm getting better at saving tweets by liking them, by the way. So, top most expensive offenses in the NFL.
I might have seen it, but I didn't like.
Number one is the Browns, $191 million.
And a lot of that obviously is how awesome.
Rams 190.7, which kind of was like, oh, but Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, a lot of money in there. Chiefs are at number 3, Cowboys are at number 4. Vikings are coming in at number 23 at $113.3 million. Packers dead last.
I was going to say they got to be pretty. Yeah, I mean, and that'll change in a couple of weeks. But right now, obviously, with a rookie quarterback and a bunch of younger players,
$78.4 million. And you're right, it will jump, but it won't jump to like top 10.
No, like that. Because you still got your. I mean, outside of Josh Jacobs, like your running backs and your receivers and your tight ends, and really your offensive line now that Bakhtiari is gone, are still all younger, lower price.
Yeah. Elton Jenkins got the contract, but it's
one out of 5.
Right. The one on here that is probably catching people off guard a little bit is like, how is that possible? Jets are 26th. But remember, it's Garrett Wilson still on his rookie. Breece Hall is still on his rookie.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers is obviously highly paid. Alan Lazard is on there. I think Mike Williams is probably not a whole lot, the receiver on there either. But remember, their main offensive guys are still like the Garrett Wilsons and the Breece Halls.
Right. And generally, that's going to be a good idea to look and see, like, okay, who has rookie contract people.
Yeah. And remember, Jets apparently don't like offensive lines. And they didn't invest any money over there either. So
Joe Tippmann, there's a lot on you, bud.
Yeah. Tyron Smith, does he have another couple years or year left over there? And maybe it changes when David Bakhtiari signs over there. We know Randall Cobb won't be there.
No,
he won't be over there. So
hanging out on the SEC network.
Yeah, which kind of flew a little bit under the radar there. So, but
he didn't announce his retirement. He just said he was doing this. So I think maybe he's leaving that open.
Maybe like a Matt Ryan. Remember Matt Ryan that first year?
Yep.
So and then Matt Ryan then officially retired.
Well,
after a
yeah,
year,
you
so.
don't want. I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I'm sure his agent is still probably like, "Hey, what do you think? What do you think?" You know, look.
His agent's still calling the general manager of the Jets, Aaron Rodgers, seeing, hey, can you push for my guy?
Just bypass straight to the top.
Right. Yeah. So, couple texts to catch up on here. Brandon's mom again, reaching out. Her and Rocky will help with something at a tournament. Nice. Thank you guys. Appreciate that. Jake from State Farm just started listening in a while making some breakfast. Hoping to get a shout out for my boy Louis' first birthday. You can't listen to Sports Talk 105.1 your whole life if you don't start at the age of 1. Happy birthday, Louis.
Happy birthday. And what's for breakfast?
Yeah, what are you making, Jake? I'm kind of hungry right now, actually. It's almost my lunchtime, to be honest with you. So, been up for 6 hours, 5. 6
Yeah, you're
hours,
you're an early riser.
Yeah, I have to be.
You have to be.
Not by choice.
You gotta get those worms.
It's so weird. Mondays are my best day because I got energy, but I can feel it dissipating every day. Thursdays are the worst for me because it's like, okay, I don't want to get up. Fridays, like, it's tough, but then a lot of it's like, okay, it's the weekend though.
I just gotta get through it.
Yep. Got to get through Brandon for a
I
couple
gotta deal
hours.
with him for a couple hours, and
then we're golden at that point.
Mondays are easiest because you're working with Justice sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. Fridays are good though when it's football season.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, once you're, I mean, you've got essentially one more Friday where you're not talking about something significant football wise, because even when we're over for the Casper Classic, like that's family night,
the next day.
And then after that you got some preseason games, and then
that's going to be my Lindsey Pipkins watch list preseason player that I gotta come out there for. So gotta keep an eye on, which is a little bit harder this year because I believe Green Bay only signed 8 undrafted rookies because they didn't have any roster spots.
Well, they had so many picks.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I already got. I think I put out there, but I think Kalen King's going to be my guy, the 7th round corner from Penn State. So 2 years in a row, it's going to be another corner.
What was it last year?
Carrington Valentine.
Good one.
Mm-hmm. Worked out for that one. So, yeah. Lindsey Pipkins.
Between you with that and me with Brian Hudson, I think you got to never question our ability to pick randos.
Exactly. Right? That's why mock draft season, I'll get a Packer 5th or 6th rounder. Don't ask me for the first couple rounds.
Right. But yeah, day 3, you're going to.
Like Oladapo, I got the safety one there, and I had Sean Clifford last year. Remember?
That's right, you did.
I did get that one too. So, yeah. Other than that, no, don't ask. It's just shooting a dart at a wall at that point. So,
well, I mean, it kind of is for them too. So,
fair enough. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back with more coming up after these quick words. Bust out the grills this weekend and grill up some brats from Mike's Star Market in Eau Claire. Maybe grab some Bloody Mary brats or whatever flavor you like. They got a bunch of different styles, or I shouldn't say styles, different types of flavors and other stuff. Snack sticks, their freeze dried candy over there. Check it out, Mike's Star Market, west side of Eau Claire. Maybe you want to throw some steaks on the grill this weekend,
Ooh.
whatever the case may be. Yeah, right. Especially too with football season coming up, maybe a little tailgating type of feel out there. These mornings, though, Brandon, these little cooler mornings is getting me ready for fall.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This was like this morning. Like I think like if you sleep with like your window open and stuff, and there's just some of those mornings where you wake up and you're like, ooh, like you're not like I prefer to sleep like when it's really cold.
Oh, I want it freezing.
So that's why like this morning I was a little bummed because when I woke up, I'm like, man, I could still sleep for a while.
Yeah.
But like that, like when you start getting those again.
I don't know if it's my age. Maybe older people. Well, I'm 38. By the way, Jake from State Farm said fried spuds and eggs are on the menu today.
Ooh.
So
sounds good.
Dang it, now I want to.
I know. I'm making myself breakfast when I go home, so
I can't. But anyways, I don't know if it's. I have 2 fans, full bore, on me every night. I don't know if it's age and getting older, but I get hot. Well, and I'm like, no, I want it 30 degrees or something like that. I just no, and I don't know if it's just age and I'm getting old now and all that. But
I have a constant fan going on.
Oh yeah, I got 2 on the highest power brand, and I still sweat.
You just get like one big barn fan.
God, I know. Like in the old gymnasiums, they'd have them in the corner and just turn it on, and like, yeah, oh gosh, I don't know what's going on, but my age, my body, or what. I got
but if we
issues.
just kept this weather like from this week, it'd be great.
Yeah.
Mother Nature, if you're listening, I know you are.
Yeah, Mother Nature.
Or Mother Nature's brother Nature.
Nice.
It's a Parks and Rec reference if you're not.
I'm starting to get into because I feel like that's a show that I would really.
And it's a short like it's only like 6 or 7 seasons.
Was it really?
In the like there's not like that, like I feel like older shows have like longer seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But like younger, like newer shows, like they'll do like 8 shows in a season.
Mm-hmm.
So the good thing is you'll be able to get through that.
Yeah.
So
interesting. Yeah, because I see the clips all the time. I've watched.
Yeah, there's a lot of like.
I feel like Ron is a guy I could really attach
I think so.
to,
And I like it. Like I don't want I'm notorious for just not like watching shows when they're actually on.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go back well after the fact and I'll watch it. But I did that. Yeah, I would say it's worth your time.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. I'll definitely do that. The Open also is going on right now, and yeah, Tiger ain't making it.
Yeah,
my prediction before was that he wasn't going to. He's done. He's +6. He's 100 or actually he was +6 today. He's +14 overall. He's 150. But I didn't think he was gonna make the cut, and it pained me to say that. And then I know he like birdied right away yesterday, and everybody's like, "Oh." Do you want to put it in perspective? There's Tiger's at +14, 150th. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 guys who have a worse score than Tiger Woods, and then there's another 3 who withdrew.
Is John Daly still playing, or did he
withdrew? Ernie Els withdrew.
I know because he actually he wasn't doing great, but like he took an 8 on the last hole, which is a par 4.
Mm-hmm.
So quad on the last one's not.
Yeah. Tiger is one of the worst scores out there right now overall.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not. I hate it. Your leaders right now 6 under. 6 under. Shane Lowry's your leader at 6 under right now.
Justin Thomas still up there? Or who was? Now maybe it's not Justin Thomas.
Well, JT, he'd be in the afternoon, I think. Today,
no, I was thinking of somebody else. My bad.
Okay. Let me kind of just go through. So Justin is out there, but he's +3 today, so he's at even for the tournament.
Okay.
So it looks like scores are not that great today. Which,
that's the Open. That's the Open, but
yeah, where's Rory on this?
I know he struggled yesterday.
Come on. Yeah, Rory. Oh God, yeah, he did. He was 7 over.
It was rough for him yesterday.
What about Scheffler?
I want to say he was around even.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think this morning I looked at it.
Yeah, he's tied for fourth. He's
Yeah,
2 under right now.
Okay,
So,
yeah, he was around even-ish. So
okay.
the Shambo had struggled too. Like there was.
So I feel like it's the dudes who are, obviously incredibly accurate and.
Yes, I'm sure know the course, play the course.
Yeah, but yeah, the final major already of this golf season, dude. That's kind of weird to say as well.
I don't like the PGA Championship being in July or late June,
May.
May. No,
May.
that's right. They moved it. I preferred it when it was in like September
or August.
August. Yeah, so it's not too late in there. Yeah, it just
kick it off with the Masters.
I just think it's dumb that the PGA your tour championship is not your like last big one.
Right. And you severely limited the amount of courses you could go to.
Right.
With that, especially for how long.
Yeah.
And further in advance, the U.S. Open is scheduled.
Yeah, and it seemed like you had the U.S. Open is around Father's Day, right?
Yep.
You have right now this time of year, middle of July, usually during that dead week.
Yep.
You have the Open, and then August or whenever, like you have the PGA Championship
right before NFL season kind of kicks off. College football kicks off.
Maybe like later August, maybe even that week of like week 0 for college, like that last August. It's just I didn't like it.
I don't either.
I didn't like it, but nobody asked me.
Obviously.
Obviously.
So, but all right. Well, I guess I'll kind of casually pay attention to the Open now. I hate to say that, but it's like if it's the Masters, I'm all in.
Right.
Then it's like
you don't want to wake up at 4 a.m?
No. If it was Tiger, though, I probably would.
Mm-hmm. Or if there was a big bet, if it was, DeChambeau versus Rory, like it was, at the
that
US.
was
like that was a great battle.
If they were in the final group together.
Yeah, it is a little bit different when they're not. When you're not going back and forth.
Yep. So, but yeah, I'll pay attention, but it's not. It kind of loses a little bit of luster when you don't have those guys up there. So, I hate to say that, but I'm being honest.
Yep.
I'm being honest. So, when do you? Because I know you're big into it. When do you do your fantasy football draft?
Well, I have 3 leagues I'm in, and usually it's right before the season. Like I think because the one I travel for every year when I go to Minnesota, that's always the Sunday of Labor Day weekend.
Okay.
Which I am the champion, so I definitely make sure I have to be there for that. I love
the casual drop. I am the champion.
Well, of course. I mean, I was like the Jets. I won like the first year of the league, and that was back in like 2007. And then I've just been very average ever since. And this year I got like my team might have been the worst team that's ever won that league.
Yeah.
I got hot at the right time. I had like Jordan Love, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. Like the team is not. If you looked at the team, you would say it's a 12-team league. It's like it's a keeper league. It's like if you looked at that team, you'd be like, especially against some of the other teams, like, wait, that team won.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I did. So,
wonder if I'm kind of thinking maybe we should. I know we did a couple of years ago, but really get into a fantasy football league here.
I'd be game. Like
what?
I could add one.
What services do you use?
ESPN and we have one that we use Yahoo on because we've used it since the beginning. So it's nice to go back to like 2002 for the history.
Yeah.
But I do like ESPN. Like it's very basic, but it's fine.
The thing I don't like about fantasy football and running leagues is if it's not set, you can't satisfy everybody, which I gotta understand that. But then it's just like, don't complain. Okay. Especially if it's going to be for free or something like that. Just come on.
Well, we'll talk about this off air. If we want to get a one for the station or something going, we could do that.
Okay. Yeah.
But
should we do a keeper one?
We'd
have to have dedicated listeners for that.
Well, we know we have dedicated listeners, but we got to know if
would they want to do fantasy football?
Dedicated for that.
Right.
That's the question. But so always like I'm also a believer of like don't do your drafts until like pretty close to the season.
Yeah, why do people like? Because I'm seeing this, and there's people already like, I'm like, why are we drafting before what? You're
gonna have both your running backs get hurt, like, and I'll joke with one of the commissioners of our league, like actually the one in Yahoo, he'll joke because like he'll get an email like, oh, and like it was around the NFL draft. It's like, oh, fantasy football leagues are back open. And he just laughs. He's like, what am I gonna do with this? Like, that'd be a good question for Eric.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on this?
Well, I mean,
'Cause he
that's
does a
his
jillion of 'em.
that's his year-round thing, though, isn't it? So,
It is.
like
And
366.
that's something I struggle with.
Mhm.
Would be like, I'll talk about football or like fantasy football, like, during the season, but like I'm not talking about in May.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, I'm kind of that way with baseball too. Like I can talk about the Brewers a lot, but like if it's like December,
Do you have a baseball fantasy league?
I do.
You do?
And
Okay.
it's free. It's just me and my friends, like just for
Yeah.
the heck of it. Like,
Mhm.
it's very laid back.
I know we did, like, Sleeper and that, but,
I actually liked the interface for that. It
okay.
was very like because I'd never used it before, and I've heard it kind of gaining some steam.
Mhm.
But whatever if we do this, whatever you pick is going to be fine.
Mhm.
But it's just like
I just here's my thing too, is I like the app. Like, I could just go on, open it, and like that. So
boop boop boop.
if I
Yeah,
do it, I want it so it's like the app is good.
yeah, and the
Yeah.
Sleeper app was good. Like I
Mhm.
like the color code, like every codiness and everything of it. Like it was
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah.
But like ESPN's, they're at this point, I think pretty much all your apps are
Mhm.
geared for easeability.
Right. Right. So, all right, maybe 2 weeks from today when we're at the Casper Classic, we can announce something. Maybe we'll do something. A little breaking news announcement there. I don't know. I'll think about it. I always get a little hesitant on running that.
It's tough. Like both of them.
My problem. I hope I have this problem. We have too many people that want to do it.
That's what happened when we did before because we ended up doing the two. I think.
Yeah. So what would be the max amount of teams we would take in a league? Do you think? Is 16 too much?
I mean, I'm in a 16-team league.
Are you okay?
And that's my favorite one. But like I can
Because it all depends on the quarterbacks, right? When you get to as
not
many.
necessarily.
Well, if you have you don't want to get too much, can you?
But you can make it work. But like,
Okay.
you don't want. I mean, I would say 16 is probably the most
Okay.
you would have in one. Like you don't need to go like 20 because then you've got some teams that can't have a backup or whatever, and
that's what. Yeah, that's what.
And then you're also. You're running back. You're starting. You're the third string running back for the Bengals, hoping he gets in for a couple plays.
Right.
So
that's what I was kind of referred to as that backup quarterback one. So okay.
And if it's an 8-team league, I'm gonna drop out. That's way too many. That's way too few. 8.
Oh, I thought you said 18.
No, I said 8
okay.
teams.
Yeah.
That was I always enjoyed that. That was one of the running jokes about the the TV show The League.
Yeah.
Was that like people would give them crap because they were in an 8-team league and just how like easy it is,
Mm-hmm.
and how non-challenging it is when
yeah,
everyone has like a
great quarterback, a great running back,
right,
and all that.
right.
Yeah. So okay, I'll we'll talk and we'll ponder it a little bit. So, but maybe I think maybe my thing is too. Maybe I just need somebody to help run it and keep tabs on it and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll let it marinate. How about that?
Yeah.
Let it marinate for a bit. So, all right, we'll take our final break and do some picks and predicts. We actually have some baseball games now to pick finally.
Woo!
How about that, kids? We'll get to that coming up after these quick words. And cream of the crop. All right, let's do some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire. If you're checking out some of the baseball games or just want to grab a nice beverage and such and hang out with some good peeps and talk some sports, head on over to the Elbow Room located right next to the Banbury Place here in Eau Claire. We got baseball games, man.
We do.
We got baseball games starting today, this afternoon. Excuse me. Diamondbacks, Cubbies. Who are you picking for this series?
I'm going to go D-backs 2 or 3.
I don't know why, but I'm going to go Cubs. Let's go with Phillies and Pirates at Pittsburgh.
The Pennsylvania series.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Phillies 2-0-3.
I'm going to go Phillies in this one, too. How about let's go San Diego Padres and the Cleveland Guardians.
Sneaky one, is that in Cleveland?
It is in Cleveland, yep.
I will go Cleveland for 2.
Let's go the Cardinals visiting the Braves.
Braves win them all.
I hope so. I'll go. I think Braves win the series, but don't win them all. Let's go Baltimore at Texas. Speaking of which, when we're a little bit early, how big of a weekend in the next few days is this for Texas?
Yeah. Texas, I mean, it seems like Toronto's out.
Yeah.
I think there's even been reports they're looking to trade some people. But yeah, for Texas, I mean, they're another one of those teams that's kind of on the bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, they weren't great all year last year. It just those last few months, they kind of figured it out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's big for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to take Baltimore.
Yeah, me too. Let's do, I think, kind of a sneaky one in terms of I think they're quietly playing really good and they're up to Boston's 53-42 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think a lot of people, I mean, when you look at the AL East, it's Yankees, it's
Orioles
at the top. But Boston's sneaky.
Yeah,
when you look at this, they're playing the Dodgers. And when you see the record side by side, you're like, oh, Boston's 53-42, Dodgers 56-41.
Right. So, no, I would agree that Boston's kind of been a bit under the radar, which is kind of crazy to think that the Boston Red Sox are under the radar, but it's true.
Yep.
So, that's in Boston?
Los Angeles.
In LA. I'm going to take Boston 2 out of 3.
Ooh. I'm going to go LA 2 out of 3. Although Boston's really good at home or on the road this year. They're 29-17. 29-17. How about Houston versus Seattle in Seattle?
Houston's playing really well after that slow start. I'll take Houston for a couple.
I'll go Houston taking a couple too. And then are they going to split or who's going to win the series between Brewers and Twins?
I have to say this. I don't always have great luck when I go to watch Brewer games at Target Field.
Yeah.
I've seen some heartbreakers. I'm going to say they split. I'm going to say they win tomorrow and they lose Sunday.
I'm going to say they split too. I mean, Twins, I think, are kind of flying under the radar.
Yeah, no, the Twins are a solid team.
Mm-hmm.
They're right in the race as well.
Yep. Yeah, I think it. I know it's the cop out, it's the easy one, but I'm gonna go with a split.
Are they gonna win the game I'm at?
No.
Why are you rooting Travis's bachelor party?
Wow, you were teeing me up for that.
Why? I'm telling on you.
Well, here's my receipt because you just said you don't have any luck when you go to a Brewers game. So you are the one that will be ruining it. So if you don't want to ruin it, sit in the parking lot during the game.
There's one parking lot.
That's fine. Sit in the parking lot.
I can't tailgate in there. What am I going to do? Twiddle my thumbs?
Yep. If you don't want to ruin Travis's bachelor party, don't go to the game.
You already ruined it.
Current standings, by the way, for the for the wild card and such. Excuse me. Oh, if you don't want to work, that's fine. Okay, it doesn't want. What are you doing? Oh, the stickers.
You got this thing of stickers. I'm just rolling back and forth.
Yeah, I was like, what are you doing right now? So, Yankees are the top wild card team. Minnesota's the second one. Then Boston's the third. If we're looking at the American League, Kansas City's 2 back. Houston's 3.5 back. Tampa Bay is 5.5 back. Detroit is 7. In the National League, Atlanta is the top one. St. Louis is 2. The Mets are number 3. But then you have Arizona that's just 1 back. Padres just 1 back. Pittsburgh's 1.5 back. Giants are 3 back. The Reds are 3 back. The Cubs are 3.5 back. Nationals are 6 back, but they're saying they're selling. So, and then you just have 2 teams that are worse than them, and it's the Rockies and the Marlins. So, National League's still fairly wide open.
Yeah.
At this point in time.
Outside of the Marlins, pretty much, right?
Yeah, and probably the Rockies.
And probably the Rockies.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'd seen someone say, like, as long as you weren't one of those 93 expansion teams, you still have a shot at the playoffs.
That's right. Yep. So, all right, those are your picks and predicts. Again, brought to you by the Elbow Room. So, we've got cream of the crop. Should we do that?
Let's do it.
Let's do cream of the crop here. I don't want to forget about that one. I'll go first because shout out to John. John said that I bet Dan's cream of the crop is Gary Trent Jr. You know what? I'll go Gary Trent Jr. then. Yes, Gary Trent Jr.
Have you talked about that this week at all?
You sarcastic. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I love the signing. I just can't get over the fact that he apparently turned down $15 million per year from Toronto, and he's playing for the minimum for the Bucks.
I mean, it's one of those sports where you like guys will really like. I guess the allure of the championship in the NBA is significant because like guys will take a lot less. I mean, look at what's his name? Is it from the Knicks?
Brunson,
yeah, Jalen Brunson. He took like well under
over $100 million less. Yeah.
I mean, he's still getting a bunch of money. Don't get me wrong, but still, like that.
You guys, you got to have a lot of trust that your team's going to reward you with that.
Yes,
and
exactly.
And that. So, but yeah, Gary Trent Jr.
There you go.
Cream of the crop. How about you, sir?
I'm gonna go a little bit off the beaten path just because I saw this yesterday and it really excited me. Obviously, Major League Baseball announced the 2025 schedules.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. That's whatever. Brewers open at the Yankees.
That one might be actual nationally televised game.
It might be. But the thing I like is MLB made a slight change with their schedule to where teams like your designated like interleague rival that got bumped up from 4 games to 6 games.
Mm-hmm.
So why is that important? Well, I believe in both cases for the Brewers and the Twins, those are now 2 weekend series.
Yes, they are Friday, Saturday, Sunday games,
which is great. It should be that way. It should be Cubs, White Sox for 6. It should be Cardinals, Royals for 6. Yankees, Mets, whatever.
Yep.
Like I'm glad they made that change because that's going to help. I think, especially like attendance for both those games.
Well, they did it finally this year, but what was it before? Like, stop doing the random Tuesday, Wednesday series where like we couldn't go.
Right, and
so this year they did weekends.
Well, and that's why you're wondering, like, why do the Brewers not play tonight and then play Saturday, Sunday? That's why, because they have only 4 games with the Twins.
Right.
So next year that's 6. So that's I'm glad to see that.
Yep. And the first one's going to be in Milwaukee. That's going to be in May.
Yeah.
Which weather we don't know. Which
but in June, then it's I think it's like maybe Father's Day weekend.
Yep.
Okay, so Father's Day weekend in Minnesota. So I might be going that. So
yep. No, I noticed that too right away, and I was like, oh yeah, there we go. So
my runner up, but you kind of alluded to it. Like I want to give John Horst some credit because for not having much money to spend, I think they did a good job of kind of retooling a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I saw somewhere that a lot of people think they're deeper now than what they were.
They got a little younger.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they got a little more versatile.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you've talked a lot about obviously this week with Gary Trent, what he brings. I think that's, to have him come in and be probably your 5th starter.
I think he is a better 2-guard. Malik Beasley was awesome.
He's a great shooter. He was a great shooter. But that's what he brought to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Like Gary Trent, I think has a little bit more in his bag.
Yep. He's got familiarity with Damian Lillard, with their Portland days and such. So I think that's an upgrade there.
Yes. Right now, really the only thing like a backup big.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's,
And is that the last question remaining here is, are they going to trade Brook Lopez or is that come and gone now?
I don't know. Like I almost feel like if they haven't done it, maybe they won't. But give John Horst credits. Like, I was critical about the draft and, we'll see, I guess. Mm-hmm. The bright side with who they brought in is like, those 2 draft picks aren't going to be rushed anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But like for having no money to spend, they did a pretty good job of bringing in some people that can help. And I do think another, a full off season and training camp of, okay, this is Doc Rivers. And again, I'm not the biggest Doc Rivers fan, but like a full year of knowing what to expect from him. Damian Lillard not coming in on the eve of training when
Mhm.
I can be a little optimistic with this.
Mhm.
I mean, it's ultimately it's always going to come down is Giannis healthy in the playoffs. If Giannis isn't healthy for the playoffs, doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
But I feel better about this than I did maybe a month ago.
I feel like the Eastern Conference is going to be a little bit deeper though too.
I think so.
We got, I think, the thing that worries me about the Knicks is I'm just waiting for the Tom Thibodeau implosion.
The Tom Thibodeau worked his guys too hard, kind of grind them into the ground, and then they're just fatigued.
Yep, exactly. Like I feel like that's coming. So that's my one thing about them. Philadelphia, yeah, Paul George, Joel Embiid, Maxey. Can they all stay healthy though?
Yes.
That's the big thing there. Obviously, Celtics are deep.
Yeah.
We know
the
that.
Heat are always going to be there somehow.
Yep.
Somewhere they're going to be in the mix. Pacers.
The one thing I'm curious about with the Heat, with the Pat Riley comments after the season with Butler and Tyler Hero, how does that work out?
How does that play?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So, and then Indiana with their youth, and they gained that experience in the postseason run there too. So,
yep,
confidence flowing with that group.
Is this the year that the Pistons take a big step forward?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm kind of joking about that. They're not good.
My Orlando Magic took a step forward this year. Maybe are they going to be in there? I just can't wait now, Brandon. When the NBA moves to the NBC, we're going to rehash the Pacers Magic NBC games from back in the day. Aaron McKee, Dale Davis, Antonio Davis, Dennis Scott, Nick Anderson, Anthony Hardaway, Shaq, Horace Grant, Mark Jackson, Reggie Miller, Rick Smith. I could go on, man. Have a good weekend. You be safe, sir. We'll be back at it Monday morning.